But one athlete is now getting attention, mostly from conservatives, not for her performance on the field, but for her protest on the podium.
I want to ask you about the Olympic hammer thrower, Gwen Berry.
Miss Berry is so embarrassed by America, then there's no reason she needs to compete for our country.
We don't need any more activist athletes. She should be removed from the team. The entire point of the Olympic team is to represent the United States of America.
Gwen Berry qualifying to represent the U.S. in Tokyo by coming in third in the hammer throw. But as you just heard, some conservatives want her off the team. Why? Well, we've been showing some of these images. When she reached the podium, she turned her back on the flag during the national anthem in a protest of systemic racism and police brutality. This is now turning into basically the latest front in Washington's culture wars, if you will, with the White House asked to weigh in.
Part of that pride in our country means recognizing there are moments where we are, as a country, haven't lived up to our highest ideals. And it means respecting the right of people granted to them in the Constitution to peacefully protest.
Joining me now is Kavitha Davidson, sports and culture writer for the Athletic, I should say. Kavitha, good morning. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
You heard Dan Crenshaw there, the congressman, saying that he doesn't want activist athletes on the U.S. team. Is that a reasonable expectation?
It's absolutely not a reasonable expectation, to the point where Gwen Berry actually can signal why that's the case. In 2019, she had a similar demonstration and during the Pan Am Games and was suspended by the USOC for 12 months. There was significant backlash, and the USOC realized that that was unrealistic to expect for Tokyo and said that they would allow demonstrations in these Olympic trials. So the fact that the USOC itself is acknowledging that it needs to give its athletes space to be activists and to use their platforms to demonstrate these things is a message in itself. And I just think it's a little bit rich that, the politicians that we're seeing, like Dan Crenshaw, like Tom Cotton, calling for Gwen Berry to be banned from the Olympics are the same that regale against cancel culture. And I would just like to know how they reconcile those two ideals.
I don't want you to get too in the weeds here, but there's kind of a timing piece in this because it's the trials, right? So at the trials, they only play the anthem once every day. It happened to be during the podium ceremony for Berry. She now says she feels like she was set up. Talk us through some of the fallout on that front.
Yeah, so it's a little bit complicated, like you said, in the weeds, but basically the national anthem is not played during the podium ceremonies during these trials. It's scheduled for a certain time every day. In this particular day, it was scheduled for, I believe, 5:20 p.m., and it's usually right before the evening session starts. Because of natural delays, the podium ceremony didn't happen until 5:25, and that's when the national anthem was played. So I think if you watch that actually go down, she's not planned to do anything. She's trying to make a decision in the moment of how to react to the anthem playing when she didn't expect it to be playing during that ceremony. So because of that slight timing difference, and the USOC has yet to comment on why it was played then and not after the podium ceremony before the evening session started, but because of that, it started this entire controversy.
It's not like the Olympics don't have a history of athletes using that, international stage, right, to draw attention to issues that are important to them. And I know you were thinking about, 1968, for example.
Right. I mean, if you go back and you look at the rhetoric that was used about John Carlos and Tommie Smith in 1968, it's exactly the same language that is being used about Gwen Berry, that she's un-American, she's unpatriotic, she hates this country. She has come out flat out and said, I never said I hate the United States, but that she thinks that sports are kind of a distraction and she wants to use her platform to talk about these things. But this backlash is very much out of a playbook that has been, frankly, successful from the conservative side for more than 60 years now. And I would also just like to point out that the kinds of things that Gwen Berry is trying to shine a light on are police reform. Your own Leanne Caldwell reported this morning that a police reform negotiation that's been going on for 3 months has basically crumbled. And that's really what we need to be talking about, instead of whether or not Gwen Berry is a real patriot when she's exercising her right to protest.